Welcome to Cutting Edge Cosplay Podcast, where your fellow geek girls hang out and talk all things cosplay. And Bears has a very, very nice custom piece that she made, and I need more information. Can you please tell us the process, the ins, the outs, the everythings, because it's gorgeous. If you're not watching the YouTube, you have to.
It's great.
Oh, it's so pretty. Wait, show the back too.
Yeah.
That's so pretty.
That's so impressive.
So those of you who are on Spotify, Bears is wearing a completely handmade corset with the Cutting Edge Cosplay logo on it. And it's this beautiful like hexagon fabric, like so pro, so cute. I love it.
Joanne's.
So how did you decide to make this?
So it was an accident.
Perfect. I love it. This is a good start.
The best projects.
Yep.
I was scrolling through Instagram.
A happy accidident.
As one
usual.
does. Yeah, per usual. I'm surprised I'm not on Instagram right now. And I was scrolling, liking things I liked. And I came across this design that like an artist had done. The artist's name is Dean_G Kane. And I tried to scroll past it and I just couldn't. It was this beautiful Wonder Woman, but Wild West version.
Ooh.
And it called my name. And so it's like, that's so beautiful. And so she has like a leather corset instead of like her regular blue one. And I was like, okay, first of all, dope design. Second of all, I've never worked with leather before, and it would be kind of fun to make a leather corset for Wonder Woman. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I reached out to the artist and like made sure he would be okay with me using his design, because you can't just steal somebody's art. And
very nice.
He was, so that was great. And so I was like, okay, leather is a little bit expensive, so I want to plan out the corset before I just start cutting leather. And so I was figuring that the best way to do that would be to find a corset design. Obviously, that's kind of sort of the same like style as the one that he designed. And so I found one. It's a free corset pattern by Aranea Black, and she's like this incredible seamstress that I follow on YouTube already. So if you don't follow her, she's so talented. So I found one of her free patterns, and I made a sizing. So you can see in this one, it's like got this brown. That's like this really stiff material, which is like kind of why I chose it, was because it was super stiff, and like leather doesn't have a lot of stretch to it. So I was like, okay, this is going to be perfect. And I got it to more or less fit, and I knew where I would need to modify it so it matches the artist rendering a little bit better. And I was like feeling pretty confident. I was like, okay, the final thing is just to make sure that all my pattern pieces are the right size and shape. Let me look up how to attach leather pieces together, because I was like ready to roll on the leather parts. Mm-hmm. So I look up a tutorial, and I found one by Prince Armory, who does like really beautiful like designs and patterns and stuff. And as I'm watching it, I'm realizing that they're doing certain techniques that are spritz the leather with water and then form it over a plastic or metal dome so that it's the right kind of shape when you go to attach things. Certain segments will need to be pre-crimped to make sure that they will attach properly. And as I'm watching it, my mind's just going, fabric was the wrong pattern material. I should have made this whole thing out of foam. But okay, it's already basically made. So I was like, okay, I knew that we were recording today. I was like, I'll just put a cover on it. And so I duplicated the pattern pieces to make the outside layers and sewed them all together and made it work. So here we go.
It's gorgeous.
This won't work for its intended purpose, but it's pretty cute for just having on, right?
Yes.
Go girl. Oh, I'm so impressed.
So I'm so excited.
Yes.
So if you ever need a corset pattern, oh girl, I can't sew. Obviously
there's something.
Aranea Black taught me lots of tips. Follow her. Look at it. There's free patterns. There's free YouTube videos that show you how to use the patterns.
Speaking my name.
Like this one ended up a little bit big because it was a sizing thing. So I'm going to be doing lots of tugging today. Just ignore it. And then, yeah, follow Dean_G Kane, because he is an incredible artist. And I'm really inspired. So
That's great.
I'm doing that. I'm following them right after this episode.
Absolutely.
Immediately.
I'm following right now.
Yeah.
I know Instagram already.
So like, guys, if you see artists who do something that you really like, just ask them if you can use it as your inspiration. And they might say no. It's their like baby. They made it. But if they say yes, then you guys can collaborate. And that's kind of fun.
Respect.
I love Wonder Woman. I think she's really fun. I have a couple of versions of Wonder Woman. I don't know that I've worn them out a whole lot, but it's pretty great because it's one of those characters that kids recognize.
Yeah.
And cosplay is fun no matter what character you do, but there is a special kind of heartwarming when you're just walking around a con floor and a tiny little girl comes running up and asks for a hug or a picture or just to look at you. Like, it's inspiring. Mm-hmm. And so those are the moments when I always get super into characters, when I see those little eyes like light up. Like,
because then you got to deliver.
I know this character. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're the hero for a minute.
You are them. Yeah.
So I'm on the opposite side of that, where I enjoy being the villain.
Okay.
So
just run away.
Yes, like I see those eyes light up, but they're not like with excitement; they're with fear. And it's great. Last Halloween, I was a scarecrow with like a stitched up mouth, and there were certain kids that would just like stand in the hallway, like a room away, just kind of like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like where they're just like staring in awe, but a different kind of awe. And like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to haunt my dreams for the next 3 years. And I'm like, yes.
You leave a lasting impression.
I did it.
Yeah. Mission accomplished.
A little bit different, but.
So do you get into character? Like, does that kind of inspire you to become more like, you're kind of walking around and you see that fear and you get a little bit more like,
a little bit more sinister. Yeah, definitely. Just like, how can I make like this stitched shut mouth look creepier? Let's just like open my mouth a bit and like show the skin stretch. Just like perfect. Like
Danny's having a very visceral reaction.
Oh my God. I was there, guys. I was there at the Halloween party when she was stretching it out. She even like, I think she did this just to freak me out, but she like stuck out her tongue, was like in the little like strings. And I was like, I am a little bit of a wimp, and I was just like, but you're my best friend, so I gotta still be here. I was like,
trying
okay.
to like shove food through the holes and stuff. So there's like the functionality part of it, but I'm like, this is okay. This fits my character.
You are
Dog
so
only.
creepy, but we gotta take a selfie.
Let me pull my hat down a little bit to get a little bit more shadow here and make the eyes pop.
Oh my God. Goodness.
It's torture.
But you love it.
so how important do you guys think it is to be in character? And like, when do you think it is important to be in character? Like, say you're at a convention or you're at a party or you're just walking around downtown or whatever, a shoot.
I think when they start to get attention, so like if a photographer is taking pictures of them or somebody, like you said, like kids are running up to them, then it's like their time to shine. And I think it's really important because it definitely brings your cosplay to a whole nother level, and everybody around you just gets so phased by it. They're like, wow, that is great. Like you almost feel like the actor is like actually there. I love it. I love being in like at conventions and seeing when people who are in cosplay just get into character and start like acting and everything. I'm just like, that is so cool. That is so cool.
I feel like that's kind of the Disneyland mentality too, where it's like, if you think of little kids, they're excited because like this hero or whatever that they've had in their dreams and been imagining about forever, like they're real, they're here, like, and then to be in character, it can also like do the opposite effect of just completely shattering dreams if you're not like matching that, like that energy at least, you know?
That's true. I think it depends. I don't even know if I want to say more often than not, but I think it depends on the setting. It depends if you're on or off. Like if a kid is running towards you, be in character. If you're in a photo shoot, be in character because that's going to translate in the photos immediately. If you're at a convention, Sometimes yes, but sometimes you're getting from point A to point B. And if you're like a creepy scarecrow and trying to like drag your leg or something all the way from like one booth to the next, might not be effective. And so I think it depends, because acting takes energy. And if you're in a character that's very dissimilar to who you are, it's going to be harder. And then you're going to be real tired by the end of the day. And so I think it's fair to take breaks, to know when it's helpful to be in character and when it's not. And for some folks, interacting with someone who's in character and won't break character can be really uncomfortable too. When they're just like, okay, but like, what's your Instagram handle? And they're only in character and not speaking or something like that. It's just like, okay, but like, come on, help me out here. Yeah. So I think it depends. But it's very immersive. I like it.
That would be a good situation where a handler would be helpful too.
True. Very true. So, or having business cards, things like that.
I also saw when we were at PAX that some people who were in cosplay had their Instagram handler tag. Had their Instagram handle. They're at on their weapon or on something that they were holding. So like loud and clear. Like so they like didn't any picture also that they had taken of them would have their tag in the photo.
Oh, it's like a live watermark.
Yep.
That is so cool. That's brilliant.
Pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
I never even thought about doing that.
And then also you don't have to run up to them and be like, what's your Instagram?
Right.
And then maybe spell it wrong.
I didn't hear that. It's this dot this.
Yeah. Get out your phone right now. Let me see.
Let me just type it in for you. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, Bears, what do you think? And what do you think about being in character versus not versus all that jazz?
I think being in character can be fun. I think that it definitely has a time and place. Like, so if you're playing a character like Harley or Deadpool or Joker that are naturally over the top kind of characters, you're going to need to be a little bit more mindful of the space that you're in and the people that are around and whether these actions are landing the way that you expect them to. Because if you're overly familiar with people that you don't actually know, or you do know, and doing the kind of over the top, like hugging and getting in people's space,
pulling pranks,
it can be fun, but read the room, because it can also make people extremely uncomfortable. And especially at convention settings where you have people who are quieter and much more confrontation averse, you're going to need to do that legwork for people in a couple situations, especially if you're the kind of person that wants to be that big. You have the onus is on you to make sure that you are making people comfortable, because you're in control of that situation at that point, and it's not fair to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that shy person might not tell you if they're uncomfortable, and they might just deal with it, but inside they're like shriveling up and dying, or like putting themselves somewhere else, or just trying to like ignore it. And that's also not fun for anybody. And especially if everyone else looks like they're having fun, they're not going to want to speak up and be the downer of the party. So make sure you're paying attention to the people around you. It's also really helpful, I found, because I've got a couple of characters that I can get a little bit like into. Yeah. It's really helpful to have a friend or a handler who is, you guys come up with some kind of, before you even enter the con floor or the shoot or whatever, come up with some kind of, what's the word?
Like a safe word.
Like a safe word.
Or like a wink or facial expression. Some kind of cue.
Of some sort.
A cue.
Yeah, there we go.
Some kind of cue where like you're stepping over the line. That's not going to be like a call out in front of everybody, but it's just like a, maybe tone it down a little bit kind of thing.
Yeah. Bring it a couple notches.
Yeah. And then the opposite side of that spectrum of toning it down, which is not to say people should tone it up if they don't want to, but there are some characters who are very closed in, very quiet, sometimes don't talk at all, or are, intentionally painfully awkward, which is great. Like there are absolutely wonderful characters who fall into that. And if some people are interacting with you and want to know about your cosplay or want to ask you for a picture, and if you're just like awkwardly not looking at them and really quiet, that's okay if that's who you are and that's your personality and you're uncomfortable. But notice that might also make somebody else uncomfortable. Like if I'm coming up to, Bunny, and Bunny is a really, really quiet character or something like that, and I'm saying, hey, like, I'd really love to know your Instagram handler. Can I get a picture with you? And if you just like don't give them any sort of anything, a nod or verbal anything, it can be really awkward.
Yeah.
Right. We were talking about Elle from Death Note a while back ago. Like that one is definitely a good example of kind of an awkward character and a good example of someone that maybe should either break character or have a handler that can break that line for people who are excited for that character and want to like interact in some way.
Totally. Or if you have an SFX and you can't actually open your mouth, it could be helpful to have a handler or have some cue cards and say like a yes cue card for can I take your picture? Yes. Or like get creative with it. Yeah.
Like any kind of like physical cue, I guess, to show like what's okay or what isn't.
Yeah. Because either way, you just don't know. You can't assume what somebody's boundaries are or are not unless you ask. Even if it's like a picture at a convention, say I see Bears, and I'm like, oh my gosh, can I get a picture with you? It would be rude of me to throw my arms around her or put my hand on her waist or touch her prop or touch a costume piece that might be more fragile than you realize. Or if they're wearing body paint.
I spend a lot of time on my props. Don't touch them.
Or they're wearing body paint and you don't know if it's going to transfer to you, but they know it's about to transfer to you. Ask someone before you touch them for any scenario, but especially like if you're taking a picture with them at a convention, just ask. And it's no big deal. It's 2 seconds. People will appreciate it.
And if you're doing, so like say you see another cosplayer and you're really impressed and you're like, I want to take a picture with that cosplayer and you're in costume too. Maybe you're from the same universe. Maybe your characters are in a relationship. So it's kind of like a fun picture. It's not breaking character to ask if it's okay to touch them. It would be rude not to. Please don't touch anybody unless they say it's okay explicitly.
Yeah, like if we go with the Harley and the Joker dynamic, which is its own thing, but say you're cosplaying Harley, you see a Joker, you guys want to get some cool couple shots at the con, like do you, that's awesome. And ask, hey, can I hug you? Hey, can I like put my head on your shoulder? Hey, if you're the Joker, maybe ask if you're going to like touch someone's neck or like put your hand over someone's mouth or something like that. Cause that's not okay with some people. And some people are totally comfortable with that. So you just ask and it's no big deal.
Have you ever run into any like situations where that might've been?
Yeah. One of my first conventions, this was ye old Rebecca at SakuraCon. I was a character from Bleach, which we had talked about a couple episodes ago. Somebody asked to take a picture with me and they kind of like put their hand on my shoulder, but it was fine. And I was like, oh, whatever. They took a picture and then they picked me up and started to walk away.
What?
So like a minor kidnapping occurred. And I was like, whoa, where are we going? And I was a minor. I was very shy. I did not have confidence at all at that point. So I didn't really know what to do, but I was like, hey, where are we going? Oh, my friends are over there. I got to go. Like, and kind of like squirmed my way out of it and like went to, my friends were not nearby. Like no one was nearby, but I was like, I know them. And I kind of went towards them. So people can cross lines very quickly. It can get interesting. Yeah. So be careful. Be really careful.
Watching this, you probably know not to physically pick people up and walk away with them. But just in case you need that reminder,
just don't do that. Just don't do it.
Or ask permission first.
Yeah.
Just don't do that to strangers.
Don't do that to strangers. No.
Don't even ask strangers for permission. Like, what the heck?
Just don't kidnap people. Maybe don't. So that's at conventions when to be in character. What about shoots? Is that different?
I think if it shoots, personally, it's great to be in character because like you said earlier, it completely changes the way that the pictures turn out if you're in character versus not.
How do you get there? Like, how do you get into character for a photo shoot?
I watch a lot of videos if possible.
Me too.
So like for a Kali, I watch a lot of gameplay videos. Or for Snow White, I just rewatched the movie a couple of times or whatever and just kind of like find certain mannerisms that are like more on brand for that character and just try my best. It's
do your research.
Yeah, do your research.
Well, hey Bears, I think even for a Kali, like you even kind of started getting into putting a playlist together, right? That kind of like matched her vibe kind of. So even when you're crafting or like doing makeup or something like that, it was like themed, right?
Yeah, we actually, I make my own playlist depending on the character. So I've got like a lot of playlists on Spotify right now that are character specific. Cause then as I'm crafting the character or doing my makeup or practicing poses or whatever, I can kind of get into that headspace and vibe and kind of like, okay, yeah, I feel a little bit more hardcore now, or I feel a little bit more cutesy or whatever. And that's really helpful. Actually, Rebecca, you have a ton of really good playlists too. And that was kind of what influenced me to do that.
Oh, gee, I didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. No, I absolutely have playlists help me get into character before the shoot, but also like with the photographer's permission, I'll say, hey, can we play music while we're shooting? Because it's 100% doable, but it can be a little awkward if it's very silent and it's just click, 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 and then like the sound of heels and then click. And it's like, if you have music, it feels more relaxed because there's background music. Like think of going to a restaurant and there's no music. You just hear plates and silverware and stuff. And that's kind of awkward. But if there's music, it just, you mouth noises. if there's music, it's just more natural. And if it's in character, like if I'm doing a shoot for Evelyn from KDA, I'll play that KDA like album on repeat, which if it's a long shoot, I'll probably mix it up because there's only a couple songs, but that helps like get you into character. If you know the dances, it helps remember some of the poses that might actually translate well to like pictures. So I think music is super helpful and it makes it less awkward. Great. Yeah. And you could do a funny little dance in between like shots and stuff and keep the energy up too.
Right.
It definitely makes you feel more relaxed.
Yes.
Would you say that helps more with like the confidence side of things too?
Ooh, yeah.
I'd say so. Okay. Yeah.
Because I know confidence is normally something I struggle with photos, being kind of a more like introverted person in general. Like I am outgoing in ways, but like overall I'm like, what do I do with my hands? Like I can hear songs and I can like watch videos and like try and get into the mood. But at the same time, there's still like the sudden like stage fright, you know? Like how would you guys like get past that?
I do a lot of what would this character do?
Yes.
Where it's like, okay, I'm uncomfortable, but would Snow White be uncomfortable? No. She'd just be here doing her own thing.
In wonder and awe.
Looking for a bird. I'm like, yes. I'm not quite as like low key and nonchalant, but I play a lot of characters that are. And so if I'm getting a little bit too like in my own head, because I definitely at shoots get in my own head a little bit. I try to be in character as much as possible, but sometimes it's like you start thinking about like you say, like, what do I do with my hands? And that can really pull you out of it. And so sometimes it's just like, stop, take a breath, and do a little bit like, what would my character do? Like, say that character was right here, right now, and like literally doing a photo shoot. How would they in character be? Like, Harley's not going to be nervous.
True.
Harley's going to take control of the situation and do something wild. Okay. Well, then all I have to do is do something wild. Let's do it. And it's kind of like talk yourself out of it in your own head. And that's how being in character can be really helpful. But the thing about shoots specifically is you also have to be a professional. You can't just, I don't know. You have to, I guess it depends on what your photographer is okay with, but like,
are you talking about like the difference between having like 3 to 5 go-to poses at a convention versus being at a photo shoot or a convention where it's a little bit more flowing, you're more in character rather than just like still by still kind of a thing? Pose. Yeah, JoJo. Pose. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, kind of. And also being aware, you have to be more aware of the lights and everything else. Like there's a lot more going on in a photo shoot than like
it's true.
What's in your own head. So I don't know, just, I guess, take every situation with a open eye of what's going on. Be in character. That's helpful.
Totally.
But be ready to follow directions also.
Yeah. Cause like the photographer might not know who your character is or what type of personality they have or what they do with their weapon or whatever. They're there to take photos and maybe video. And so it's really up to you to be the person to show them what you can do, like what that character does and can do. And it makes it more interesting than just, oh, this is another person in another costume. So I feel like you need to kind of like play around with that. It's kind of like your job if you want to take it to that level. I know it can vary from people who just do like poses where they're just showing off their costume and stuff, and that's totally fine. But if that's a goal of yours to want to bring out that character, there's a lot you can do. So like, I know I've been to a bunch of conventions. I've never really been in character. I've never like acted in character with something that I've like cosplayed before, but I do see sometimes I'll hear somebody doing a voice, like actually voice acting that character's voice, or like certain sayings that they memorize from the show or the game or whatever. And I just like, you know, you turn, you're like, what? Oh my God. Is they're like really here?
Yes.
I know, it's so cool. And then like, or if they like, you know, move their weapon or whatever, the way that character does, like there's a lot of things you can do to really elevate your cosplay and be more in character. So yeah, it was like kind of like voice acting. Have you guys ever done like voice acting or like or like said sayings?
She's voice acting a goat as we speak.
That was great.
Good job.
Thank you. I'm doing it every day.
practice every day.
Sometimes. So there are some, like Evelyn, I'll know a lot of her game voice lines. And her voice, not to say that it's similar to mine, but it's not an accent or it's not like super high or anything. So I can pretty easily do Evelyn.
It's just a good sultry.
Right. It's just like you bring it
voice.
down, things are a little slower and they're kind of more dangerous. And based on her voice line.
Do you have a line that you can say in your bag of tricks?
On the spot. Oh, was it as good for you as it was for me?
Oh,
no, too bad. That's
so great.
But also there's the flip side of things. If somebody has like a very in character accent, like if I were to do Merida,
you wouldn't be able to understand me doing that.
Because I wouldn't be able to do it. And I feel like just myself, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it right. And I'd be too nervous to like not do it well. And so I wouldn't do the accent, but somebody else might be willing to attempt. I don't know. It wouldn't be me. So I don't know.
I love Merida's body language. I have a lot of fun with that because it's kind of how I am anyways. It's just kind of like, we're doing this thing and we're saying this thing. And if you can't keep up, too bad. Yes. But I cannot do the voice and I'm not going to try. Kind of the same reason because like, I'll be embarrassed. I don't know how to do accents in general. I wish I did because I think those are so cool when people can do those. Yeah. Like,
that's a skill set.
Depends on how drunk I am.
Skill set, yeah.
If anybody wants to come in and teach me how to do accents,
accent workshop.
But no, so for Merida, I kind of just go with the vibe of it, which is really helpful in photo shoots. Less helpful at cons because if you do the vibe, then they expect the voice because you're literally face to face. I'll do it anyways, though. I don't care.
Like, I'm kind of thinking about the difference between like photo shoots and cons, but I think one section we haven't talked about is like a subsection of con, which is like the vendors floor and shopping and walking around the halls that are sometimes very crowded.
So some
Does
advice,
that impact it? Yeah.
Some advice that I think would be good for new cosplayers who've maybe never been to a convention or this is their first convention or first few conventions is to have certain costumes for certain days or just know, like kind of plan a schedule where it's like, okay, so I'm going to be showcasing my cosplay, be in character for a certain amount of time on the floor where the photographers and the other cosplayers are. But then also I want to, maybe you're only there for a day, which is common. Maybe you just kind of set some times for yourself where you're just like, okay, well then at this time I'm going to go eat or I'm going to go
novel concept.
Or I'm going to go to the art show or like the vendor's floor. So kind of keep that in mind because like what I think you're about to start talking about.
Yeah.
Transitions into that. But yeah, so you're going to break character eventually. And I think that is a good spot for it.
Yes. And something to keep in mind is not just if you're in character or not, but how much space you take up, depending on your costume. Yes, Bunny. Raise your hand.
Bunny's ready. I have experience with that.
Bunny.
So for example, I have multiple options for my RA costume because she has 9 big ass tails that can take up a lot of space. And so, for example, one of the first places that I cosplayed her at was an after party where I knew I was going to be in like a cramped bar and everything. So I only made 3 tails because sometimes she has 1, 3, 9, whatever, depending on like what ability she's using. And, but these are just like small little limp tails. There might be like 1.5 feet long that just like kind of droop down from like my lower back, that work well for dancing on a dance floor or navigating through a crowd. Whereas then I also have like the real tails where it's like all 9 of them and they have lights in them and they like, it's a huge bustle of tails. And, I'm not about to wear those to a dance floor just because I don't have the space for it. And I don't want to whack people with my tails. And if Bears, when she's trying to jump over me as a collie, I want her to be able to like clear me instead of like tripping and causing a
Getting
scene,
lost to the tails.
Right, just like they're all over the place. But no, like instead, like, so, and it's one of those things where like each of them are set up in a way where I can just like quickly like tie or untie them and then like, let's switch out my tails for this situation. Like this is a more casual area or a more cramped area. So I should use my like little limp 3 tails versus like my big 9 tails that take up all this room. So having like little alterations like that, like the base costume is the same. It's just something where I can change that one aspect and it makes it so much easier depending on the situation. Like if I want to go eat somewhere, I don't need all of my stuff hanging out everywhere. And like, depending on how like cramped the area is, like there's a place and a time for different things. So, like I don't need the lights in my tail and like everything. Like I don't need to go all out all the time. So that's my little 2 cents there.
So I suppose like if you have a cosplay that takes up a lot of room, there are areas to wear those things. So normally there's like, a lot of cosplayers hang out outside of the convention, or there's like a convention hall where most of the cosplayers and photographers hang out at. So like I would say a good example is to not wear stuff like that where you're in line going to a panel and needing to sit in a little tiny chair
and you can't fit in the chair
Yes.
because you've got all this
Good
extra
point.
stuff going on around you. You know?
Bears, I'm curious if you have a pro strat for props. So we talked about like attached costume pieces. If you can detach something, but you still have like that last minute print that you wanted to pick up, how would you manage like running into the shop area, but you have a really big prop?
Just do it. No. So I have for Sivir a gigantic. I have the Snowstorm version of Sivir, and she's got this gigantic snowflake that is her weapon. They're like throwing weapon. It's real big. So when I'm on the con floor, I don't really go on the con floor with this costume because I did it once, and there are too many people in those little spaces between the booths. So what I had to do was like literally pick up the snowflake, hold it above my head the entire time I was on the con floor because I made it and I don't want it to get kicked by people or bumped into, because if you kind of bump into things, it starts breaking stuff. Or to make people annoyed by having to like walk around this big old thing. So I had to hold it above my head and walk around with it, which was a great arm workout, but not what I was hoping for on that day. So on props, you can leave it in the car.
Yeah.
If you brought your car or your hotel room.
You trust, or hold it above your head.
Hold it above your head.
Or coat check if that's a thing.
Coat check, or hold it right in front of your body. So at least like if someone's going to bump into you from the side, it's not going to injure the prop. Like for Widowmaker, I have her big 3D printed rifle that goes from like sniper rifle to assault rifle, which is great. And I am terrified of it breaking. And so I'll either do like just like hold it over my head as I'm going through the hall, which is a little weird and menacing, but it works. Or I'll like hold it really close to my body and just hug it as I'm going through the hall.
The size of you.
It is, and it's heavy. I'll just like hold on to it, just clutch it for dear life and hope no one bumps into it. But ideally leave it in the car or give it to a friend who can stay outside of like the vendor's hall. That would be thinking ahead, unlike me.
Just plan for it, man. Like if you have a big costume, maybe also bring a small one. So if you have the opportunity to, I know not everybody's situation's the same, but if you're only there for one day, maybe you bring 2 costumes. One for the photo opportunities and being out on the hall or in front of the con or wherever their cosplay specific space is. All of the cons that I've been to, which have not been very many to be admittedly, but they have spaces that you can be in your big costumes and people are really excited to see you. You'll get the like one-on-one FaceTime and photographers and all that, but then scoot out to your hotel room or your car or whatever and just change into something else. Like Rebecca's got a really great X23 and I've got my Black Canary that I wear when I wear her specifically to go on the con floor because it's it's a regular outfit more or less. And so it's not like taking up more space than I need to.
It's not big props. It's all pretty close fitted.
It's not a lot for me to keep track of. Yeah. And that's, kind of nice.
Or X23 for me, it's like no heels. Great. Like combat boots, leggings, a crop top, a wig, and claws that you can take off. Like that's, you can get anywhere with that and you'll be fine. You'll be comfortable at the end of the day. So you might start the day with heels and then change like after lunch or something into something that doesn't have heels and your feet will thank you.
Oh yeah. That's my Yang Zhou Long. Like she's my party outfit. Like those combat boots. I've got the gauntlet so I can feel like strong, but at the same time it's like a comfortable outfit where I can just run around and just be wild. So
and like if you're going on the con floor, remember there's lots of people there. So if you have long dresses or something, you might get stepped on or you might get just from like kind of walking by people who are wearing other clothes, you might get dirty.
People are wearing other clothes. I mean, that happens sometimes.
Believe it or not, people wear clothes at conventions.
What? I've never heard about this before. I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
Idea. Wow.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm just thinking of Emerald City Comic Con where it's a very popular convention. There's so many people there. You're all squished. And then a lot of the people are in professional like grade cosplays where they take up a lot of room. There's huge armor. And it's just like, you feel kind of like, oh, I don't want to, I'm like, you're so like nervous to touch other people because they're all in their nice stuff, but then you're also in like your nice stuff. And it can
get not to bump into people, you mean?
Yeah. Yes. And I don't know, I feel like that can get like kind of overwhelming, but it's like, as long as you have like a clear goal on where you're going to, you're like, it'll be fine. As long as you just get through the crowd, you're good. And another like thing that we always bring up cosplay handlers, and I'm starting to realize how important they really are, or a friend. We could just say, for all intents and purposes, a friend, somebody that you're meeting with that may either not be cosplaying or is okay with like helping you out with like holding your stuff while you get lunch, or like if you want to take a break, like if you are in like Sivir or you're like Ninetales, and you're like, hey, I really want to go take a quick peek around at the con or at like just the merch area.
Vendors area.
The vendors area.
Yeah.
Can you hold my tails? Can you hold my weapon for me?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and even sometimes just other people or friends cosplaying or whatever. Cause like Arcadia group, for example, like Ari is like the diva of the group. So of course I'm not going to have any pockets for a phone even because I'm taking selfies of everyone. But, it's always been nice to have like a collie there because she's got her little like side pouch. So I'm like, okay,
here's a booty pouch.
Yeah. So here's my phone and a thing of lipstick. Can you please just hold on to this for me?
Here's
please?
all of our IDs.
Yeah. You are
Now you have 4 personalities. Here you go.
Scoot over the glow sticks, and if it'll fit.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I'll put the glow sticks on so you can hold this too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Help each other out, man.
Yeah.
God bless people who build pockets into their character concepts.
Right.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh. Or pouches of
jeez.
some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Utility belts, backpacks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
From all of us to
Thank
you.
goodness.
Well, here's one thing we haven't talked about. So we've talked about etiquette as a cosplayer, etiquette when you're taking pictures at a convention. What about the flip side? So etiquette with getting your pictures, etiquette with how you work with a photographer at a convention. And is that different than a photo shoot?
Yeah, I actually don't know what it's like. Like, I mean, I've been to conventions, but I just kind of get overwhelmed or like nervous because I don't really go there with the intention of knowing how to navigate the whole like photography floor. Like, okay, so POV, this is your first convention and you're wandering around and you see all these professional grade photographers. They have like all this stuff and you want to get photos, but you don't know where those photos are going to end up. You don't know how you're going to view them in the future. You don't know how to pose. Like there's so many like things. And so then you just don't go there. You just go somewhere else. So coming from that situation, I've never had my picture taken like where I've with the intent of like, I'm going to go to that photographer and ask him because I just don't.
Okay.
So how do I do that?
So I'm the same with that. I know, I can't remember. It was either Emerald City or maybe it was PAX. I was dressed up as Harley Quinn, and it was a fun costume that I created like all from hand, but I wasn't expecting to get photos, and like that was like, why didn't I not think of that? So I didn't have
It happens.
Yeah, like-
Spoiler alert.
I didn't have any poses planned. I was just like, look at this cool thing I made. And I'm like running around the convention and people are like, can I take a picture of you? I'm like,
What?
yeah, sure. And then they're like, okay, what's your Instagram? And at that time I didn't have like any kind of like cosplayer Instagram or anything. I'm like, I mean, I guess this, like, you have a card. Thank you. So I'm just collecting cards from people and trying to find myself to like tag myself and things.
Oh,
but like, I just was so unprepared for any of that because I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just in a costume and not even thinking of like that aspect of it. And so like, I was not prepared in any kind of way, but at the same time, it was still fun, but like, what are you supposed to do? Like, how was I supposed to know? Yeah, what I was supposed to do for that. Like, I mean, I got cards, I tagged myself in things.
Business cards help a lot. I had somebody who had like the best strategy, which is so brilliant. I had business cards at the time, but I'm wearing a different cosplay every day. So that might not be helpful if you don't remember like what I was and if my business card has like Starfire on it, but I was Widowmaker. No way in hell you're gonna remember. And so this person had me hold my business card next to my face for just a picture for their reference.
This is the best idea.
Brilliant.
That's so good.
Because that way they remember who I was. They have my business card. They know where to send the pictures because they remember, oh yeah, she was purple that day. She was purple that day. Send it to her. Not this orange.
She's not orange, she's purple.
Card. Yes, she's a different color that day.
Okay, so
Tomorrow
Rebecca,
she's green.
She does a lot of full body paint cosplays. So
Yeah.
I've never
That's
done
wild.
that.
It's a thing. But that was such a smart strategy.
Wow,
Such
that's
a
great.
smart. I know.
I would say for sure one of my, like, whether I expect to get photos or not, whenever I'm making a costume, I like mostly usually as I'm crafting it, I start to come up with at least 3 to 5 poses that can be done anywhere. They're just really quick, like I can do it, pop into it, pop out of it, whatever. And the reason for 3 to 5 versus 1 is because I get bored doing the same thing over and over. But it's really helpful for being on the con floor for like if fans of the character come up to you, and then you can just be like, oh, can I take a picture? Yeah. And then you can do this one or do this one or do this one or whatever. And then when you're out doing photos with photographers, sometimes they only want one photo, but at least at the conventions that I've been to, they often want to do like a handful of them.
Right. Because they have their own thoughts too.
Exactly.
Like their vision and you have your vision. So it's just trying to like match those up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, it can be awkward if you don't have anything planned, because then you're trying to remember what the character even is as you're posing.
Yeah,
like,
and that's the situation that I got into where I'm like, who am I dressed as today? Hang on, I wasn't expecting this. So like to have that in your mind is definitely helpful.
Yeah, well, and if you have 3 to 5 poses or more, if you like feel like brownie points, if you're planning to post those on social media, you don't want just the same pose for that character. It might be an iconic pose and like go for it.
Oh, that's a good point.
But it can be good to have variety, because having the same picture 3 pictures in a row, it's not as interesting as having like 3 to 5 more dynamic.
I feel like I ran into that when we did our KDA shoot where I was Kaisa, and like she does not smile.
Yeah.
She has a very serious.
She has arms up a lot.
She does a lot of the arm stuff. So that's kind of the only changes I did.
But it made such a big difference. You looked great in every picture.
Yeah,
You guys
I
are
know.
sweet.
I kind of see that too, because like Ari is definitely kind of like the pouty, like I'm better than you look, and which I'm totally not good at, like because I've got more of like a okay smile or like okay.
How do I not smile?
Okay, if I'm gonna be serious, then I just look really mad instead of like pout. How do I do this?
You're not getting your way. Yeah.
But no, I still have to look attractive and like seductive at the same time. And it's just like all of these, like I can't figure it out. Instead, I just look like I've got like some weird facial problem.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone can relate.
It's fine. So it also helps.
fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine. We're all fire. It definitely does help though. If you're in like more of a like set situation, to have like a mirror so you can actually see what face you're doing. Or another thing that Danny did and like one of our recent shoots was like printing out the photos. Cause like, yeah, you might like save screenshots of like your ideas or your poses or whatever on your phone, but then like they're hard to come across when you're actually trying to pose, or like your phone is the one that's being used for the photos. So like printing stuff out and then like practicing them in a mirror to like, okay, I think I'm doing this, but like, okay, I'm not actually doing this. Like, I need change. You have to like change certain things and like actually, okay, this is the look I want, and then like practice like so it feels comfortable, right? And I mean, that's something I'm still working on a lot.
So for some photo shoots, we kind of cheated. Like we took those pictures and I just used some like little washi tape. And I just stuck the washi tape on the picture that we were trying, the facial, like the facial features or expression that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I put it on the photographer's tripod. And I was like,
perfect.
I need help.
Okay, this isn't
my
cheating.
help.
These are like life hacks right here.
Not helpful at a convention. I don't think that's going to be a
Right,
very
true.
easy
But
to do. But
to
for photo
prepare.
shoots, maybe, the photographer would be
Yeah.
okay with you doing that. But yeah, that was really great.
But also to prepare for like a photo shoot or a con, instead of like running into the convention, like not even expecting photos, like me, just super naive, actually having like some practice at like, okay, like at least I know it's supposed to feel kind of like this, even if that's not quite right, it at least puts you in the right direction versus like, oh my gosh, like I totally forgot everything. Like I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. Who did I dress as today? Like just the total freak out mode, Like you want to like at least have some, okay, this feels familiar. Like I know
a couple poses that like you got this, you can do this. And then you have a little bit of variety when multiple people will tag you and stuff, especially at conventions.
And that also helps to build confidence too. Because if you at least have a few things in your mind of like, okay, I've done this before. I've practiced it in the mirror a million times. Like, this feels kind of right at least. Like this should look decent, and like it'll help with that.
Well, so as far as getting to taking those pictures, definitely walking the floor and the outside area is super important. Like on the convention floor, you may or may not get pictures, and the pictures that you get are going to have people and booths in the background. So that might not be the vibe that you're going for. If it is, and you just want a picture of your cosplay while you're out and about, great. But you can't really rely on there even being photographers there, is the biggest thing. So if you go out onto the photo area, two things might happen. One, somebody will stop you and be like, hey, do you want to take a picture? Great. In that case, you don't have to work very hard. You just take the
Set
pictures,
and ready.
Yeah.
exchange information, which we can talk more about in a second, and just, do your thing. If you're feeling like a little bit more, you want to take pictures and you don't want to wait for anybody to come up to you, you could just go up to a photographer and ask if they would mind. Don't be like, take my picture. Be like,
Oh me.
yeah. I mean, it goes back to the read the room kind of thing. If you do that, people are going to be like, okay. But if you just go up and like respectfully be like, hey, I worked really hard on this costume. Do you mind taking my picture?
Yeah, and just like how they ask for your picture, they might say, oh my gosh, I love your cosplay. I'm a huge fan of this. Can I take your photo? You can also say, hey, I saw you doing a photo shoot with this person. It looks like you really know what you're doing. I would love to be a part of that. Do you have time to take my picture? Because they do really good work too and deserve a compliment as well. And that's a great way to help them be like, oh yeah, I do want to work with you. Yeah. You like me, let's do it.
Yeah, it's an interaction that goes both ways.
It's a good thing. Mutually beneficial.
Their equipment is real expensive.
Oh my God, yes.
And I feel like people
Absolutely.
don't realize how expensive cameras and some people bring their own lights and stuff too. And they're like everything. Their whole like getup is super expensive.
And the time it takes to edit things too.
yeah.
Like, all that energy.
And like, I know a lot of photographers, they're all awesome people. Like they are not here to like be judgy or anything like that. I don't
No.
But like also keep in mind, you're awkward at a convention. They're at a convention too. I bet you some of them are awkward too. Like you will be doing them a favor of saving them the time of having to come up and ask somebody.
Yeah.
It's stressful from either side. So just ask and ye shall receive. Just remember everyone's there to have a good time.
Well, here's a twist on that. So we're talking about, you can ask the photographer can ask you. What happens if the photographer doesn't ask you and tries to take your picture without you knowing? Because that happens too. So I'm curious.
It does happen, yeah.
Curious how you might address that kind of a situation if somebody's taking your picture without your consent.
If I'm in the like main area where it's all cosplayers and all photographers, I'm okay with it because it's out of your control. You can't, it's so loud, you can't even hear. But if it's like randomly, like say I'm like eating or I'm like shopping or something, I mean, it's annoying, but my personality type is not the type to be like,
No confrontation.
run after them with my weapon that I have holding. I'm okay with it. I guess it's out of my control in my eyes because I'm not willing to put the work in or the effort in to like ask them like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, and also I feel like, but though that when that happens, I just expect that I'm never going to see those pictures because you're probably not. You don't know who that photographer is.
Yeah.
You don't know what he posts those pictures to. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. But you could ask. You could be like, hey, okay, let me get your card at least. Hey, buy me a drink. And I'm just like, at least take me out to dinner first, No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it is a really kind of awkward situation. But but if it's in like the main hall where it's all cosplayers and there's so much going on, it's super loud. Like I just kind of expect it there. But otherwise, like if you're in like a hallway or something where you can actually hear each other, like you might want to say something. Yeah. Like, where are these going to? Do you have a card? Like,
Yeah.
let me know.
Give me credit.
Yeah. At me.
I don't actually usually even notice. I'm very like caught up in whatever I happen to be doing right now is what I'm focusing on.
You and I are the opposite in that way because I am like hyper aware of my surroundings. I feel like to the point where sometimes it brings me out of the moment. So,
well, I wish I was more that way, but
luckily right in the middle, that'd be great.
Right?
Our powers combined.
Luckily, my heart. Luckily, my handler is very aware of everything at all times, always. So he does the thing where if he sees somebody taking a picture, he has his little backpack and he'll go up to them and be like, here's her card. If you want to, if you're posted, please tag her in it. And so it lets them know that we're professional and we expect you to be professional too. And it calls them out like you did not get away with anything sneaky.
Yeah.
And like kind of just puts them on the spot without putting them on the spot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just kind of like a...
Yeah, I have a couple strategies for when that happens because it does. Obviously, if it's inappropriate, do whatever you feel like is the safest thing to do in that moment, whether it's chew them out for it or leave. Because people are sometimes really creepy. But if you notice someone like across the hall or whatever, sneaking a picture of you and you're not ready, like as a cosplayer, you put so much time and effort into this. You want your picture to look good, and it behooves them for you to think you look good because you're more likely to post it. But if I notice somebody taking my picture without my permission, I might either cover my face. So now you don't get a good picture unless you ask me. I might stare at them and just see if they notice that I notice that they're taking a picture without asking me. And usually they'll put their phone down because it's usually the cell phone pictures that are more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. Or I'll go up to them and I'll say, hey, did you want a picture? And if they're like, oh yeah, that would be great. I'd be like, cool, just ask next time, please. You don't have to be mean about it, but it's like, hey, I want you to get a good picture. So let me help you to get a good picture. And that way they're aware. And usually at the end, I'll be like, just please ask next time. Some people don't like it when you take their picture without their consent. Now, would I have said that 6 years ago in my cosplay career? No, that takes confidence and comfort, but it's happened enough where I've grown those muscles to be able to say, hey, please ask next time. Just out of respect, I wouldn't take a picture of you without your consent. So yeah.
I really like that these days, again, at least at the conventions that I've been to, they have these big giant like banner boards that are like cosplay is not consent. And here's all the actions that you can take if you see something inappropriate, like see something, say something kind of stuff. Yeah. And I love that because it sets the expectation that this is going to be a safe place and that people are going to be looking out for it.
Oh yeah.
And looking out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a complete different world than it was like 10 years ago. And I do appreciate those like banners. Cause also like for somebody like me who doesn't have the confidence and those, like you said, those muscles.
I can't.
So Bunny, are you going to be joining us?
For those listening and not watching, Bunny just crawled her way across the room to get back in her chair.
You didn't even bring a drink? What was that?
I mean, I already finished your drink earlier. So.
I feel like that's going to be a thing every episode where Bunny finishes my drink for me.
I mean, you refilled me last time, so I mean,
we're fueled up.
Positive reinforcement here.
There you
go. So yeah, I feel like maybe it's because I just don't have a lot of experience cosplaying, where I still need to, flex those muscles, work up those muscles to be able to like go up to people and be like, this is what I'm okay with. These are my boundaries. This is what I'm not okay with, that kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's like super great advice for anybody, even like first people, like if it's like your first convention, there's a lot to consider. It's a crazy place. Going into one building where there's like thousands of people is not something that you do every day. No. So there's a lot of things to consider, or at least kind of like know about a little bit beforehand. So I feel like that's some really great advice. It's okay to talk to somebody directly and being like, hey.
Yeah. Well, and chances are either you know them and they want that feedback anyway, or you don't know them and they won't remember that conversation. Like it's not as big of stakes as you think it's going to be.
For sure.
Which is always hard to remember for some of us.
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah. Sometimes I have to be more in character and be like, X23 would totally call him out. I'm going to approach them. Let's go. But like inside, I'm just like, my heart is like pounding. I'm just like, oh my God, I know this is scary. But like, she would do it. So let's go.
Yeah, channel your inner X23.
And if you're a cosplayer and you see that somebody's uncomfortable, you can step in.
Yeah.
If you're more confident in doing that, like, again, kind of like you were saying, I wouldn't have been super comfortable doing this when I first started.
No.
But as I've aged, I've become wise and I give so many fewer fucks.
Yeah.
So like if I see that Bunny is feeling uncomfortable with the way that a photographer is acting, but she's too nice to say anything about it, I don't mind stepping in and being like, hey, either depending on the situation, like, hey, we need you over here for this other shoot. Or
That totally goes back to the idea of other cosplayers like being like handlers in a sense of like covering each other's backs.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, you're already holding my ID anyway.
Yeah.
I'm leaving, and if you want drinks later, you're leaving too.
Yeah. The ride is
How good
leaving.
my talking skills are.
Oh gosh.
What character am I today? Like,
I'm Ari. I'll be fine.
hair flip.
But that
also
is
goes-
a good point. And more often than not, the other cosplayer will be very thankful for you even checking in. Like you might say, hey, are you good? And they'll kind of nod or whatever. And great, at least you checked. Or you might say, like, if I didn't know Bears, but I knew that she was uncomfortable and I saw her from across the hall, I might be like, hey, we're getting lunch, you're late. Do you want to meet up with us? And that gives them an option or an opportunity to say, oh yeah, sorry, gotta go. And they don't know me. But they're welcome to come with me because now I'm a safe space, or, don't assume someone's safe, but that's a pretty safe thing to do. And then they can either come with you to find their friends or have an out of the situation. But if they want to stay, they'll be like, oh, just give me 5 more minutes, and they're welcome to stay.
Yeah, it's not just photographers. I know we're like,
Yeah.
they're not all evil or anything
No,
like that.
God,
It's
no.
just, it's like just
No.
anybody
Any
at a
odd
convention.
situation.
Yeah,
Yes.
where
Because it happens.
Yeah, it could be another cosplayer.
Yeah.
right,
Someone else could be chatting you up about your costume and you're like, I'm gonna go. But if you're not cutting them off, your friend might be like, hey, we're running late for this shoot. And it's like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
So it's okay to build an out for a friend or someone you
Or
know. A stranger.
Anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Or someone
anonymous.
else.
Just watch out for everybody. A safe con is better for everyone.
right.
Yes.
Etiquette really just boils down to respect. Respect for yourself, your hard work, for the other cosplayers, the other attendees, the photographers. Just be respectful. Be respectful.
For our next episode.
That's what those are called.
I know. Yes, these things, words, they happen.
Tell us more.
I know. Who do you want to cosplay? Let us know on our Instagram or Discord server. So thank you for watching. Bye.
Because that especially has a time and place. It can be a lot of fun. What was that?
We have a lot of woodpeckers around this time.
That was a woodpecker?
Yeah.
Had to have been on the fireplace.
They're in your chimney.
Yeah, because it
Yeah,
was
that-
the loudest noise.
He's breached the wall.
Ho, ho, ho.
Look how motherfuckers are coming in.
Oh my god. Of course it's not going to do it when you're recording.
Move to somewhere else. No. Oh my god. Camera shy.